Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schmidtless Live. I'm Kurt Schmidt, president and partner at Foundry, and today's show is meant to inspire and educate leaders like yourself. So, here we are, 2021. Yes, oh boy, what a year it's going to be. It's going to be exciting. I'm so happy you joined me today. I'm really excited to talk to my guest, Jessie. But before we get started, I do have to mention, we are hiring at Foundry, so check out foundrymakes.com/careers. Hiring, as always, we actually hired 14 people last year. So it's been a crazy growth year, and we're looking for more exciting people to join our team and help us out because we're having a lot of fun. And speaking of a lot of fun, I want to introduce Jessie, who I'm going to jump over to here. Hang on one second. There we go. Oh, look at this. See? New little logo for 2021. Look at that. Isn't that sassy? I love it. Jessie, how are you today? Thanks for joining me.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so tell me about Stahl. What do you do over at Stahl? What's the type of work you do? Who do you do it for? And then what's your role?
Sure. So Stahl Construction, actually, we're going to be celebrating our 40th year this year. Wow. And we're a commercial construction company based in Northeast Minneapolis. But we have a second office in Des Moines as well. As a commercial contractor, about half the work we do is public sector work. So I work a lot with cities, school districts on both planning and then their construction work. And then in the private sector, we've been focused on areas where we really think we can have the greatest impact. So we've been doing a lot of great multi-unit, focused on multi-unit middle market affordable housing. We do a lot of adaptive reuse work, so evolving historic facilities and helping them have a new life. A lot of focus on sustainable construction, a lot in the urban environment, so working with our cities. And then we have had a long history of building hotels. We're actually building 4 right now, but now is not the time to be focused on hotel building.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come back around, right?
Yeah, and actually, we've been successful with our current endeavors, and that market will recover like all do in time. And I'm lucky to be their president. And my title, we are a traction company, so I'm their visionary as well. So really progressing, really expansive thinking and integrating that into the organization strategy.
That's awesome. So tell me about that that approach, because a lot of people think of construction, like you mentioned, 40-year-old organization. It's probably got a lot of, we've always done it this way sort of mentality. So why change it now? Do you find that because you have an eclectic background, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I mean, you've worked in the marketing sector, you've traveled the world, you've done a lot of nonprofit work. What kind of attracted you from your background into this space? What was the thing that was like, aha, yes, that's where I can be successful?
Yeah, so my background is varied, but I'm very much an impact-driven leader. So my career has kind of progressed around where I thought I needed to expand skills and where I thought I could have that impact. So out of college, I worked in international environmental consulting, and I got to do a lot of renewable energy development projects. That was really my first segue into the built environment, but as a technical consultant. So I did a lot of work that was funded back when there was a carbon market by the developed countries of like France and Germany and Africa and Asia. And I really enjoyed working alongside architects and engineers, but again, in that technical role. After that, I worked in environmental tech, really honed my kind of aggressive business skills. And I loved that. We were building a market, buying companies, bringing in new investors, really scaling, growing. We went global. I loved the pace of that work, but we were selling SaaS software with a hardware component, and I really missed the tangibility of physically making something. And really, I did not intend to go into business. It just ended up being a great mechanism for me to do the things I wanted to do in the world via a mechanism that kind of worked. If I could make a profit, I could get something done.
Yep.
So when I decided to leave that company and I spent some time thinking about what really fulfilled me, I came back to the built environment. It was a market where people hadn't, evolved with new thinking, technology, strategy in a long time, kind of slowly progressing. It was a market where you often went into these fields because you had a family member or sort of history that led you into that. There wasn't a lot of like outside people jumping in to bring new ideas and perspective.
Yep.
And it felt like a great intersection for me to kind of take that aggressive, technology focused, progressive thinking into a market that's probably ripe for some evolution. And I had the true honor of meeting our owner, Wayne Stahl, at the time. It was 2012. And he was really wanting to rebuild after the recession, have some new strategy, some new focus. And it ended up being a really fateful meeting where we were able to talk about, what he wanted in his business. He was a man, still is a man with just integrity as his heart. Like he wants to do the right thing by his clients, by his team.
Yeah.
It seemed like a great fit for me to kind of, migrate into the built environment and support him with where he wanted to go. I did not intend to, spend my career here, but now 8 years later, we've been through this really aggressive and evolving shared journey, and I can't imagine being anywhere else.
That's great. Yeah, the one thing I do like about it, and I can see it in the marketing at Stahl, it is very progressive, and like you said, I think it is a mentality around that because, and you and I have talked before about this idea of kind of loving the things that make you grow, and the way I interpret that, Jessie, is that you have to be okay with the mistakes you make, because those are sometimes the things that make you grow, right? You have to sometimes be a person that is okay with overreaching or going outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth opportunities are, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a firm believer that our paths, our dharma, our purpose, like it comes from inside of us. And there's a quote I love, and I always forget who says it, but it goes that every man should learn before he dies what he runs to and from and why. And I really want to be the kind of person who's not running toward pleasure or short-term output or running from pain and discomfort, but truly intentionally choosing my path. In Stahl, our progression has been a lot of that too. Our tolerance for discomfort as we've been evolving, we've kind of grown our ability to withstand that and like sit in an uncomfortable place and say, well, where do we go from here actually?
Right.
And I think the reality of when I joined Stahl was that, they knew what wasn't working. So we had some opportunity to try some new things. But then as we progressed, not to just stay in that space, but to not, to keep progressing forward, we really developed this tolerance and desire to keep evolving. And that's definitely mirrored my own personal path.
Yeah.
My discomfort's definitely here to teach me something, and I want to sit with it and learn from it and be really intentional about where we go from there. And it ended up being one of the core values we circled around as an organization, being continuous improvement. All about that steady incremental improvement. And you don't always even need to know ultimately what your outcome is. You can know that it's, led from a good place from your roots,
Yep.
but continue to employ that mechanism where those chances to grow are like what's leading us magnetically forward.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, in my situation, where we work in software and you have experience with that, you often go into organizations that say they want change, right? They do want change. They do want those things. But once you get in there, you start to find out that culturally it's sort of impeding change. They might be saying one thing, but the actions and the things that are actually in place and the things that are happening are not moving that change forward. I mean, have you experienced that? I mean, what are some of the suggestions and advice you have for people that might be in that situation where they are being told that they do want to see innovation and things, but the way that the organization is reacting to that might not support that?
I think it's really interesting. There's a lot of like buzzwordy things people are focused on. How it has always been,
Yeah.
I have a background, I studied environmental science. So back there was a greenwashing era where people would talk about like, we want to do these things, but we're not really willing to fund or try to do those things. And I think that diversity of thought's kind of in that camp right now too. Like we want a diverse workforce. We want to be facilitating different kinds of processes, but sometimes it's really uncomfortable because we're having to attack systemic issues that have been that way for a really long time.
Right.
So inviting that perspective can sometimes be offensive to certain people or especially really challenging. And what I would say is for organizations that want to embark on that path, first of all, I'm a huge proponent of just meditation and personal time every day and just making time. We each, each know where we're at, how we're doing, so we can carry that into discussions too and have that, increased self-awareness. And then I think from that place of self-awareness, understanding duality, there's no, I love that life is a never-ending paradox. There actually isn't universal right or wrong typically. There's a lot of different kinds of perspectives. And when you want to invite different perspectives to the table, you can expect that it's going to take you a little bit longer initially and a lot of discomfort. And people might instinctually want to say no to certain ideas that challenge their beliefs. But the reason we're doing this is to sit with those different inputs long enough to create a different shared vision. It may still be kind of going in the direction you wanted. You can still align that with profit expectations and other goals for the business.
Yep.
But you're going to have to take some additional time and let yourself be a little uncomfortable in that target setting. And if you are too quick to shut down different inputs that are coming to the table, you better believe you're not going to get more, right? So it is, you need to, I think, if you're an organization wanting to embark on that, you need to do some training with people who are experts in this space. And then also embark understanding that it's going to be a little uncomfortable up front. But the difference of having a top-down, here's where we're going to go, just listen to me approach, and taking the time to develop as a team, a shared vision and direction is going to be massively impactful when it comes to execution. I would say for our company with our evolution, like we put together initially when I came this 5-year reposition plan based on this SWOT analysis I did for the organization. But the team, it came from having talked to so much of my team and so many people in the market. Yeah, it really was our shared perspective coming together in a strategy. And because of that, we were able to execute against all of the things in that plan in 3 years, not 5, because I had all of my workforce fighting with me. I really believe like no one of us is strong enough or smart enough as all of us together. We can go a lot farther.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is I've seen and some of the best advice that I've given entrepreneurs and the people in that space is that, they always start out with like they're building their company and they're working towards, what are my company's mission? What's the values? What are their goals? But this first piece of advice I give is that you need to work on yourself. What are your personal goals? Do you want out of life? What do you want out of your business? Not just, starting with the business plan and those types of things, because I found that the best leaders and the best business people that I've worked with have those personal goals, not just a business plan and a mission statement and those things, is that you've got to start with what do you want? Because unless you are that leader who can then communicate those ideas in the business plan, the vision, the values, the strategic plan, everything all the way down the line, if it doesn't start in a good place. So I loved what you said, Jessie, about taking time for yourself and that meditation and being able to focus on making sure you're in the best place you can be before you go out there and start telling other people what they should be doing, right?
Yeah, and I still do this to myself, frankly. I ask for input that I don't always know what I'm going to do with it, right? We're opening things up, and you can get a little horse ahead of the cart there if you're not prepared to really listen well, or if you're, say, in a stressful business state and you're bringing an input that's contrary to how you thought things could or should work, right? And we as leaders have to filter that and still be wise, good leaders. I think this era of time is calling for a different level, different style of leadership.
100%.
That I think it's really interesting to be on the precipice of. Our workforce is demanding it. Our communities, our markets are demanding it. We don't always know how to get there. But this is an opportunity to admit that, hey, we don't have all the answers, but we're willing to ask some questions and embark. And I love one of the things you just said, I want to kind of expand on, but the authenticity of these things is key.
Yep.
If you try to say, we want to go do these things, but it's this campaign from a messaging standpoint, and you don't actually do the deep work to understand who you are as an organization, it's really challenging. It's not going to work, and you're not going to get buy-in across the organization. You will see some of your gaps. You can still embark and find those areas, but they're going to be bigger disconnects, right? Yep. One of the things I love about Traction is that it's not just picking some core values, but doing the deep work to understand truly what are your lived values, not your aspirational values, but what are you living? And the idea that you hire, fire, and promote, even find clients and growth mindset strategic partners in alignment with those values.
Yep.
So for us, one of our values is respect for people. And I always say, coming from that, respect from people means I can learn something from anybody I interact with, as well as the fact that respect for people means we have diverse populations around us. How am I supporting their advancement, right? And so that changes things from just saying, I wanted targeted minority, women, veteran, disabled-owned businesses to be able to be successful for us, to saying, hey, it's all of our missions to make sure that we run meetings and facilitate meetings, run bids, and invite people based on our value that we want humans to be able to succeed in diverse populations. It makes it a lot easier to make it that all of the organization is finding their ways to help progress that mission.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing is that I've seen other leaders, and maybe you can talk to this, is that they're worried about making a mistake, right? Is that if I do take on these new things in these sensitive areas, like you just talked about, diversity and inclusion and these types of things, where I've seen leaders say, well, I'm worried about stepping into those areas because what if I make a mistake? It's going to be really loud and really gross. And so maybe I should just think about it more. Or, and I've seen this in other companies I've worked with in the past where they've just kind of waited for they thought would be the right moment to do something. I mean, what's your thoughts? What's your advice in reaction to that?
Oh yeah, or they see like one hire is, taking the box and now we're trying,
Right.
and it's like if we don't work on the system, actually, that even diverse hires can't bring their full perspectives and insights, right? I think when I say we're in a precipice of a new style of leadership, I think that we have to be brave, and sometimes that might mean that we look stupid. And I'm okay looking stupid. I'm okay at least trying. And one of my other favorite quotes is a Teddy Roosevelt quote. And the basis of it is like, just get in the, and I won't swear, but just get in the effing arena.
Yep.
And that might mean that people are trying to kill you and throw stuff at you and are spectating and not getting what it is that you're trying to do. But try, nothing ventured, nothing gained, get out there.
Yep.
And if this is something that's true and you care and you believe it's something in alignment with your organization, I think we have to be willing to be uncomfortable and vulnerable in our own evolution to at least give it an attempt. So I do think there are people that are much wiser than I on the subject as it relates to specifically minority populations in our workforce. There are amazing consultants you can work with that can come do training. I've done training through some of the boards I've been on, and it's been really powerful and impactful on top of reading, and just I live in a diverse part of the city, so I enjoy getting to have diverse populations around me. But even still, there are so many things I'm still waking up to personally, right? And acknowledging that my own evolution curve to be the best leader and human I can be, I'm still here and I can still go here. And I'll acknowledge that to my team and to the communities I'm trying to support. Like, I will use my stance and position to try to do what's right. Help me understand when my measures aren't the right ones, and know that I'm okay with that vulnerable space of my evolution sort of intersecting with my businesses. If you want to look perfect and lead and have everybody listen to you, this isn't for you. But I do think the world is changing in a way where the world might not be for you in the future either.
Yep, right. And so with that, I think it's really good when we talked about making sure that you are comfortable in your own skin, that you're taking care of yourself, you're growing and you're learning. But how about with the people that you're directly managing or working with? How have you found success in communicating a similar sort of approach, right? Because people like yourself and myself, we usually are the managers of the managers in a way, and so it's very important that that our goals and values are being communicated the right way, because I've had in the past as a leader, being able to talk to people and say, my direct reports, and saying, this is what the goals are, this is what we're doing. And then to watch them systematically dismantle it, playing telephone with their direct reports, has been frustrating in the past. So what are some things that you found in the way you work, and better ways to communicate what those goals are and what those things are? How have you empowered the people that you're working with to be able to carry out those goals?
Oh, full transparency. I've not done everything right. I love the Patrick Lencioni clarity, repeat. The reality is, like, the farther that message has to go, like it's only going to travel clearly at the level that everybody has emotional, like, heart buy-in, that it's real and it's right, and that you make it really clear and demonstrate the value and the why, right? So, even working on core values takes time. Sometimes you have to evolve what the value is to be more authentic to what your business is versus aspirational or a target. I do think for organizations that clarity, that deep work really matters. I run a construction company. So like my superintendents have to live our core values. They have to get what that means. When I'm sitting and talking to you, if they heard it today, they'd have to feel like, yes, I know how I'm progressing some of this thinking in my work. It's subcontractors in the field that work for us. They have to understand, when respect for people for us means that we're going to treat everybody well on our job site. We're going to integrate them into our work, and we're going to do our best to set them up for success safely. And that's how we live that to them. And our superintendents need to be able to clearly share that. Yep. We found within the organization, some of the elements of traction for us, the kind of organization that we are as an executing engine, was really helpful for us to have that consistency. It forces these weekly check-ins. It forces cascading messages. It just really forces you to be wildly clear on repeat. And that's where we've started to get buy-in from more than just, me and ownership, or me and leadership team, to all of our producers as well. As well as like some of the work we did, our deep work before we rebranded a couple years was also done in tandem with lots of like interviewing and spending time with each of our teammates. So I think what's key is what I mean in that is I derived a lot of source material that ended up being what we oriented the business around. Okay. So it wasn't me, wasn't our owner, it was like us. Yep. And that was really helpful too. Now, certain visionaries, I spoke on a podcast a couple of months ago with a founder, totally different mentality. He feels like, his core values and his focus is the business. It is him, right? So I don't think there's, again, a right or wrong here to that either. Us just as an organization, we're moving towards more of an ecosystem organism sort of based management style and approach. Yep. That's different. It's not for everybody. But I do think there are some elements of our journey that are universally applicable. And I think that clarity piece is everything, and having it be authentic and real is another.
Yeah, well, and you brought up a really good point, because I think the differences in the businesses, because you brought up contractors, subcontractors, you've got a more fractional workforce than just, everybody is full-time employees that are just sitting here around. And I think I see that in other organizations too, where it is difficult to be that kind of person on the top being like, everybody do this, but sometimes they're there, sometimes you're working with them 3 times a year, maybe tops, or things like that. But back to your point, if it's not something that is more community driven in terms of those values and mission, it's not going to stick, because they're not going to have ownership in it, or see ownership or value for themselves in adopting those things, right?
I think people can see right through good messaging and marketing to what's real and their lived experiences with your organization. And not that we are always perfect. There's times we stray, but then these core values should be what aligns us and what we have in common and what we reconcile around. And some of it just takes time. We've been working on this for years, and we're still coming up with new ideas of like, how do we fully launch that? How do we facilitate that? Yep. And we're chewing on it. But what's interesting is it's come alongside the marketplace and our clients really resonating with it too. When you start to hear your clients and your partners reverberate back the things you're trying to do and how they're experiencing that and how that's aligning them, you really get the clue that you're going, yes, we're going in the right direction here. This is real. This is uniting more than our organization. It's uniting those who interact with us around why, what we're doing together. So I think that always comes with, you got to take still that with some learning of like, again, listening to what you're hearing, continuing to revise focus and everything too.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and back to the kind of the theme of our conversation here about loving the things that make you grow, what's some of your advice for people, that might be watching this and thinking, wow, the leadership journey that Jessie's been on has been great. And it's something I aspire to. I mean, what would be some of your advice to maybe some of the people that are watching this and thinking, maybe I want to be the president of a construction company someday, and or I want to be, maybe I have hard hat envy and I want to get out there and build physical things and wear, yellow vests and things. I want to get out there and mix it up and get dirty. In all seriousness, what is some of the things that you have found in your journey that really helped you grow in your leadership, in your leadership values, in understanding where you want to be and who you want to be? Has it been mentors? Has it been, like you mentioned, education? What are some of the things that have been key for you?
Oh, I love new concepts and ideas, and I love different people's perspectives. I have to admit, I've had a hard time finding mentors in the world that are like, say, doing the things I want to do that I would like to replicate. I have enjoyed perspective from people who are like senior to me in the marketplace, but I've enjoyed just as much perspective from the subcontractors that work for us, helping us understand ways we can be more effective on site and help them be more successful. If I think about some of my overall trajectory, I really do think it's holding some space for my evolution, frankly. And I am someone who believes so firmly in the infallible human spirit. I think what human beings are capable of doing is well beyond reason and data. I mean, we're sitting again at a moment in time where we need to evolve, and we each have beautiful things, our histories to heal within us. Like, we have a lot of things to work through. So taking through that time to understand, who am I really, and what is it that's my purpose, and how can I share that through the work at hand in front of me. And one of the things I've noticed, a lot of my work has been around intergenerational or diverse perspectives coming together and creating, shared strategy, shared vision. And a lot of times we think we're all disconnected, or say, I've noticed from my younger staff, they are working on that understanding of what it is they want, but it seems to them like they're going to get it somewhere else in some other step and some other thing. And they're like, we're waiting and looking for that perfect thing.
Yep.
Often we can do a lot of this development with what's right in front of us. And it's just simply bringing awareness to like where we want to develop and the things that we want to share, the things inside of us that we need to just unleash, and looking at literally what's right in front of us. Often the universe, actually, I really believe the universe is always conspiring for our evolution. That's really fundamentally why I love the things that help me grow, even as they hurt, because I know the universe is conspiring for my growth. Mm-hmm. It wants me to be my highest and best self and share that with other people. And so I can just look and find opportunities to do that and listen and find what I need to kind of let out. And I think that is just universal across humankind. I don't care what your religious belief is. I don't care, whatever. If you're showing up to do a job every day, it should be doing more than just making a paycheck for yourself. You should have some purpose and fulfillment. And what that is just going to come from spending some time with yourself.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because I coach a lot of younger people, and it's like, they're searching for this key that's out there somewhere that once they find it will just unlock all of their potential. And it could be that one job, it could be that relationship, it could be all these different things. And then once I have that, now all my potential will all of a sudden be unlocked. When you have all that potential already. The key, you already have the key. If you're waiting for something to come and bump into you to get you on the right track, it probably won't be something that you expect, and it probably won't be something you designed, and it'll happen to you. And so many of the people that I hear complaining about where they are in their career or in life in general is because of things that have happened to them versus things that they have gone out and purposefully and intentionally gone after because they understand where they want to be and who they are. And so that's what I enjoy talking to you, Jessie, about, because it definitely feels like you have spent the time figuring out where you want to be, at least right now, and why you want to be there, and what are the things it's going to take for you to continue to grow in that space. And I think that's a really important message for people these days because of the environment that we're in, right? We're in a pandemic, we've got elections, we've got all these different things going on. And if all these things are happening around you and you're letting them happen to you, it is going to stunt your growth. It is going to hold you back. Because you're letting all these outside forces affect you, and not in a positive way. And that's why I love about your advice, Jessie, about making sure you really understand and take the time for yourself to understand what are the things that you truly care about. What is the dent in the universe you want to make versus, what dent is the universe going to make in you? Right?
Oh, I love that. It's growth mindset, truly. We are either manifesting what we want and projecting that, creating that, and magnetically drawing that, or we are a victim to our circumstances. And that is quite literally headspace. It's how we choose to see things. And I think that self-inquiry, that curiosity, and then eventually, ideally, that leads to a lot of self-love. Like, I deserve the things that I want. I deserve to have a life scenario, work, things that align with who I am that just really satisfy me. I deserve that. I love myself. Then that leads to, I love other people. I want that for them too, right? It really grows. And that's called loving kindness meditation. And I practice it weekly. It helps me a lot expand the love that I have for my community, my team, to some broader feelings, even helping me just connect with people that have very different opinions than I do. There are people who work for me that have very different opinions than I do. But we often get back to, conversations on real values and human beings, and like we can start to build bridges instead of further disconnect. Right. So if you're just starting on that journey, spending time with yourself, like tell yourself, I'm worthy of all the things that I want and good things. Ask yourself, what motivates you? Like I figured out early in my 20s, I just am impact motivated. I am not money motivated. If I get success alone, it is not, to me, anything compared to when I can share that success with others. And I know that. So let's harness that, right?
Right.
And spend some time on what those things are, like what really calls to you, what are you attracted to? And then, I really do believe in the law of magnetism too. Every big move I've made in my career has been predecessed with a lot of personal time, writing time, and really thinking. Sometimes I just write down keywords. Like I want like to explore in these areas. And these are the things that are drawing me. When I went into tech, the tech company I went to was a client of mine, but before I even found them, I thought I want to take all this science and technical understanding, and I want to really understand how our world's evolving, and I want to get really aggressive at strategy. So when that job came along, it was like, oh, yes, this is exactly that, right?
Yep.
So I think that even now, I've made some big decisions with our business now. I've been spending the last 3 years, unfortunately, it's taken me 3 years with this one, but really sitting with like, what is the business and my future? How do they weave? What's my dharma? What's the business's for like function and focus? And just sitting with that. I don't need to quickly have answers, but like, all right, I'm going to want to see some of these things start to make sense. And then really like the world is a lot. The world is a lot, especially if you're listening to 24-hour news, right? There's a lot of input. So listening to yourself doesn't come easily. It's kind of uncomfortable. And starting to spend a little quiet time is especially uncomfortable. And really with that much noise, I've got 3 little boys too. There's a lot of noise. It takes even longer to be able to listen to those little subtle promptings that are going to tell you what it is that's really going to make a difference for you. So start there. The world is huge. There's so many things to solve, and there's so many places to be. Everybody, I believe, can have a wonderful role in that. And my deepest hope is that all human beings can, freely unleash themselves to find it.
That's awesome. Jessie, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoy our conversations, and thank you for sharing all of this. I think it's really important for people to hear, especially right now. This is the time to take time for yourself and get ready, because it's New Year's here, right? So Jessie, if I want to connect with you, or if I want to learn more about Stahl and the Stahl Construction, the work you do there, where's a good place to go? Where should I go and try to connect with you and your team?
I would recommend our social channels first and foremost. Our website's got some great content, but the real flavor, personality of our business comes through our social channels. So just Stahl Construction, look us up on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Jessie Houlihan is my name. I'm pretty easily accessible on those formats as well. I'm especially active on Instagram. I'm working on being more active on LinkedIn. So if you just look up Jessie Houlihan, you can find me. I love engagement. I love interaction. We too are hiring. We have a beautiful benefit of really having unlocked a lot of focus and growth and momentum kind of through this challenging time and into this coming year. So we are looking for like different thinkers, problem solvers, creative project managers, human beings who love craftsmanship and beauty and want to make exceptional things. Like we are looking. We're looking awesome. Here in Minneapolis and in Iowa. So please reach out if you are interested.
That's awesome. Well, Jessie, again, thank you so much. You got to come back on the show. Well, let's check in later this year and see how things have been going. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great rest of their Friday and weekend.
Great. Awesome. All right, everyone. So we are going to close up the show. But one thing I want to do, and not to sound like Jack Handy, deep thoughts real quick, but I want you to do me a favor today. Take time to compliment yourself. Take time to recognize the great work that you have done and that you're capable of. Just take a moment, give yourself a compliment today. It's really important. We all got to be, it's a lot of stress going on these days. So, take time for yourself. And I appreciate you taking the time today to spend with me and Jessie and learning about all the things that what's going to be coming this year. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week.